The car speeds towards the boy. The driver isn't looking. It's too late to stop or swerve, and it's headed straight for him. New York, 1984. A young boy is playing ball in the street on a hot day. He's by himself because his mother doesn't let him play outside when there are other children around. Suddenly, a car comes barreling down the street. The boy doesn't have enough time to run away. He instinctively opens his mouth in surprise, and when he does, the car vanishes into it. Hearing the squeal of brakes from inside the house, the boy's mother comes rushing outside. She's furious. Once he's spit the car back out, she drags him back inside. She locks him in his room before pouring herself another drink. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. The boy's mother makes no secret about the fact that she wishes he'd just let the car hit him. The boy doesn't know why his mother is so horrible to him. Maybe it's because she's afraid of his anomalous abilities, but he's never hurt anyone. He's done tests before with bugs and rats and even a neighbor's cat once or twice. Every time he swallows something, he can always retrieve it later without causing it any damage, even if it's something living. His mother should know this by now, because sometimes when she pulls his arm a little too hard or accidentally slams a door on his foot, he retaliates by spitting a dozen live rats onto the kitchen floor. When he gets a little older, the boy will develop the theory that the real reason she hates him is because he reminds her of his father, who might have had the same powers as him. Not that he could ever confirm that, since his dad skipped town long before he was born. But for right now, he is 8 years old and wishing he could run away from home. He's never seriously entertained the thought, because, anomalous or not, he knows that a kid like him would not make it very far on his own in the Big Apple. Best case scenario, the cops pick him up and drive him straight back home. Worst case, he runs into one of those scary guys in white vans they're always talking about on the news. That night, all of his prayers are about to be answered. But before we go any further, I have a question for you. Are you feeling like something's off? Is something getting in the way of your happiness or your goals? You don't need a clinical mental health issue to benefit from therapy. Sometimes life's challenges are enough. Therapy gives you tools to approach life differently, and it's a sign of strength to seek help when you need it. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make starting therapy easier by making it more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a questionnaire, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a couple days. If your therapist doesn't feel like the right fit, you can switch anytime at no additional cost. BetterHelp makes it easy. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5-star rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. If you're struggling, consider therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/DrBob to get 10% off your first month. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. And now back to the little boy who just wants to be accepted for who he is. There's a tap at the window, and the boy opens the curtains to find someone standing on the fire escape. It's the silhouette of a man who seems normal at first, but when the boy turns his lights on, he realizes the man's eyes are where his mouth should be, and his mouth is where his eyes should be. Under normal circumstances, this might have been scary, but the boy is thrilled to meet the man with the upside-down face. After all this, he knows he's not the weirdest person on Earth. He asks the man with the upside-down face if he's his dad, because that seemed like a logical thing for him to assume at the time. The man says he isn't, but that the boy can call him Manny, since that's what all his friends call him. Manny says that he heard about the incident with the car and that he's sorry that happened. He asks the boy if he's okay, and the boy just gives him a shrug. He tells Manny about his mom, who's currently passed out in front of the TV down the hall. He tells Manny that she doesn't let him have friends or go outside very often. Manny is very understanding. He says his parents weren't very nice either. It's here that Manny offers the young boy a deal. He tells him that his strange ability makes him special. Freaks deserve to be loved for who they are. They don't belong in boxes. They belong out in the world, where they can make people laugh and scream and throw up. And if the boy comes with him, he can go to a place where everyone else is a freak too, and where his powers can make him a star. The boy doesn't even have to think about it. He immediately agrees. When his mother wakes up at 3 a.m. to turn the TV off, She's in an empty apartment. She never files a missing persons report for her son. The boy is taken to the circus, where he is introduced to both kids and adults with a variety of strange abilities. The circus is a very strange place in general. The cotton candy is jet black, the tents can seemingly travel anywhere, and most of the clowns never take their makeup off, and act more like overexcitable dogs than people. Nonetheless, the boy quickly makes friends. He's trained in performance skills, and as he gets older, he starts to come out of his shell. He had been shy before, but once he starts talking, the other performers find that they can't shut him up. So his new circus family gives him a new name, Motormouth. Motormouth learns clowning from some of the few human clowns in the circus's employ. One of them, Wembley Pinhead, performs in a classic Pierrot costume and takes his career as a clown extremely seriously. He has little patience for the young Motormouth, as he considers being a clown to be a serious and mature performance art. This statement may be the funniest thing he's ever said. Motormouth's other mentor is a grizzled hobo clown called Scruffy McGrubbins. Scruffy is a big man with a deep, gravelly voice who always smells like cigarettes. He's very wise, as clowns go, and always makes sure to share a piece of his wisdom with Motormouth whenever they see each other, whether it's a proverb his great-aunt once told him or setting him straight on rumors he might have heard from the other freaks. One day, Motormouth asks him about a name he's heard around the circus, or at least he assumes it must be a name because it sounds like one. He asks Scruffy who SCP is, and why so many of the freaks are afraid of her. Scruffy assures him that it's all baloney, and that he shouldn't worry about things like that. Other adults at the circus are far less accepting towards the boy as he starts to develop his talents. Manny remains a fixture in his life, and while he's nowhere near as cruel as Motormouth's mother had been, Manny is definitely a believer in tough love. This is to say nothing of Herman Fuller himself, who never lets his performers forget that he sees them all as totally expendable. Motormouth is taught juggling by a man called Scythe, who performs in the circus as a human blockhead. His anomalous ability allows him to be stabbed anywhere without any lasting harm. He's an ill-tempered man who wears a lot of leather and black eye makeup, and Motormouth suspects that maybe he's the way he is because he couldn't cut it as a rock frontman. Scythe doesn't like having to teach Motormouth juggling, but nobody else wanted the job either, so he was stuck with it. But Motormouth is used to having to spend time around adults who resent him, and he's a lot bolder now than when he was 8. Whenever Scythe tries to make him feel bad, he's always ready to strike back with a barb of his own. Even so, he wants Scythe to respect him. One day he suggests that they should try a double act together. Scythe responds by hitting him over the head with a juggling pin. Motormouth's first role in the circus is while he's still a pre-teen. Even though he's learning quickly, he's still lacking the confidence it takes to be a solo act. So initially all he does is act as a human clown car, walking into the ring and letting a dozen or so clowns climb out of his mouth. The performance starts with the ringmaster introducing the clowns, only to be confused when no clowns show up. He scratches his head and asks the audience if they've seen any clowns around. Nobody in the audience says they have. The spotlight moves towards Motormouth, who looks like a perfectly normal young boy, and is waving to get the ringmaster's attention. The ringmaster asks the boy if he's seen any clowns, and he nods. Then the ringmaster asks where they are, and without saying anything, the boy opens his mouth. A small clown does a forward roll into the big top, then another, then another. Each clown is taller than the previous one, with the culminating one being on 6-foot-tall stilts. The clowns run around the big top while the crowd cheers until the ringmaster blows his whistle and they all stand to attention. The ringmaster thanks the young Motormouth for returning the clowns to the circus. As a reward, he gives the boy an oversized rainbow lollipop that, of course, Motormouth swallows in one bite before he takes a bow and runs off. This act entertains the crowds well enough, but Motormouth quickly gets bored of it and starts dreaming of bigger and better things. More than anything, he wants to perform as a juggler. He likes to make people laugh, of course, but having to wear big silly shoes and grease paint every day doesn't gel with the teenager's developing sense of pride. He's about 15 at this point, and he wants people to take him seriously. He endures spending more time with Scythe just so he can practice juggling every day. His training only comes to a close when Scythe dies suddenly in a freak accident during a performance involving flaming swords. It's a great loss for the circus, but no great loss to Motormouth, who finds himself needing to come up with a juggling act on very short notice. At first, it's just juggling and joke-telling, but as he becomes a more established part of the circus troupe, he feels like he ought to switch things up a little. No doubt emboldened by hormones, he comes up with the idea of having a beautiful female assistant that he can put in the audience as a plant and swallow as part of his act. The new act is a runaway success. Motormouth starts it off with a mix of juggling and jokes, making use of his anomalous abilities to swallow and regurgitate increasingly unusual items to juggle with. He starts with tennis balls, then fruit, bowling pins, then bowling balls, and of course, a set of flaming torches. Just as his juggling act is about to wrap up, a woman in the audience starts heckling him. She accuses the whole act of being fake. Other members of the audience gasp in surprise, not knowing if this is real or all part of the act. Motormouth and the heckler argue, and he tells her that if she's so sure that he's a fake, she can come into the ring and see for herself. She stands up and walks down to the ring, climbing over the barrier to stand right in the spotlight with Motormouth. He invites her to put her hand in his mouth. She does, her arm disappearing up to the shoulder. She grabs onto the first object she can get a hold of, and when she pulls her arm back, she's holding a wooden baseball bat. The crowd laughs. The heckler says she still isn't convinced, so Motormouth lets her grab his chin and pull, just to see how far his jaw can open. Using both hands, she's able to stretch Motormouth's lower jaw to the width of both her arms. The crowd starts to laugh again. Overcome with curiosity, the heckler sticks her head into Motormouth's mouth, and seemingly without warning, his jaw snaps closed like a rubber band, and the woman disappears. He resumes his juggling routine as if nothing happened, and the crowd erupts into a mix of shocked gasps and hysterical laughter. For the pièce de résistance, after juggling 5 pineapples with a 6th balanced on his head, he spits the woman back out, and the two of them take a bow. During this period, he develops a close relationship with another performer, Theo, an anomalous acrobat who can flip his skin inside out. Theo is a little older than Motormouth, but their bond soon develops into romance. The two performers develop a double act together. Theo does a jump from the high dive and Motormouth catches him in his mouth, but soon they learn what many people have to learn, that workplace romances never endure for long. The two boys break up, and the double act falls apart. Theo stops performing in the big top and moves his act to the sideshow. During Motormouth's time with the circus, a rift starts to form between the ringleader, Herman Fuller, and the man with the upside-down face. Herman knows that his performers have it out for him and becomes increasingly paranoid as a result. Manny calls him out, and in retaliation, Herman ties him up and nearly kills him in front of the entire circus troupe. But instead of making them afraid, as intended, a huge riot breaks out, with every freak, clown, and acrobat banding together to beat Herman Fuller into submission and kick him out of his own circus for good. Manny takes over running the place after that, with one of the clowns, Icky, taking the role of ringmaster. Things are better under Manny and Icky. Motormouth continues to draw crowds to the big top, but it's not too long before something starts to seem a little bit off. Manny isn't himself. He starts losing his temper more often than usual. It's clear to everyone around him that the stress of his new position is starting to wear him down. Every so often, Manny will introduce a new child to the circus troupe. They will have some sort of anomalous ability, and Manny will explain that he rescued them from a neglectful home. Motormouth is sympathetic to these kids, since he can remember when he was in the same boat. He offers to take care of these kids and teach them how to perform. Some of the kids seem overwhelmed or even scared, but Motormouth is always patient. Of course they're frightened. Herman Fuller's circus can be a threatening place for a kid, and most of these kids have come from terrible home lives. One day, a young girl comes to him in tears. Motormouth has been teaching her to juggle, so she feels comfortable going to him. He asks her what's wrong, and she tells him how badly she wants to go home. She isn't an orphan, like Manny had told everyone. Her parents were alive and loved her and were worried sick, wondering where she'd gone. Hearing this, Motormouth is furious. He goes to Manny and demands an explanation. Manny slaps Motormouth across the face and tells him never to challenge his authority like that again. Manny is doing what he needs to do to keep the circus running, because it's his job to do that by any means necessary. Even though Motormouth tries to tell him that he's being paranoid, he won't listen. Motormouth realizes then that he needs to take the issue into his own hands. He and the young girl form an escape plan. She lets him swallow her and sneak her out of the circus, back to her home where her parents are waiting. It goes off without a hitch, but when Motormouth returns back to the circus, Manny is waiting for him. He's furious. Motormouth wants to tell everyone else what happened, but they've all made up their minds already. Manny has absolute authority here, and if he tells them that Motormouth is trying to sabotage the circus, then they believe him. Just like Herman Fuller had before him, Manny gathers everyone together to watch as he makes an example of him. It hurts him to have to do it, deep down, since he's known Motormouth almost his whole life. But the circus has to come first. Motormouth is locked in a wooden trunk that is locked with chains and labeled with a card reading, "For Essie." So goes the tragic tale of SCP-2094, better known by his nickname, Motormouth. Because if one thing is true out of the many rambling tall tales that SCP-2094 is liable to tell, it's that he has a truly extraordinary mouth. He's since become a permanent resident at Biosite-59, where he's shared the bizarre details of his pre-containment life and his association with the infamous group of interest, Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting, with Foundation researchers. First, there's his anomalous ability, stretching out his jaw and throat to consume solid matter, living or otherwise, of any size. The matter he swallows seems to be transferred to some limitless pocket dimension inside the subject's stomach, where it remains unharmed and suspended. As you've seen in Motormouth's legendary act, he's also able to produce up the things he swallowed intact and alive. Like many so-called freaks, Motormouth was soon inducted into the aforementioned Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting, a sinister and often abusive organization that exploits humanoid anomalies for monetary gain. Despite their mistreatment of him, Motormouth refused to give up any identifying information that could lead to the Foundation, dubbed by members of the circus as Miss SCP Foundation, apprehending other members of the diabolical carnival. In an interview with Foundation researcher Dr. O'Sullivan, he said the following: "I'll tell you right now, the circus life ain't for everyone, but hey, Manny and the gang did the best they could. They put bread in our mouths and pillows under our heads. Yeah, I got a whooping now and again, but what kid doesn't? It's all part of growing up. Kept me in line and manned me up quickly. The folks at the circus loved me like I was one of their own. They never made me feel like being a freak was anything to be hidden or ashamed of. When you're part of a circus family, you look out for one another. You don't just turn around and sell your family out to the SCP Foundation." On the whole, Motormouth has been in high spirits in containment, always quick to perform a trick or crack a joke while under observation. But, like many comedians and entertainers, something darker has shown itself beneath the surface. He wouldn't admit it, but the horrors he's experienced have left a toll on him, resulting in a number of unfortunate incidents. The most severe of which involved Motormouth trying to swallow himself whole, which is, admittedly, a little hard to even picture. He's had closer observation and support since then and has, thankfully, been shown to be improving on the whole. SCP-2094 is contained in a medium-security residential chamber in Biosite-59. Standard PG-class pre-approved luxuries and amenities, essentially what you'd find in a mid-rate chain hotel, on a supervised basis as an incentive to promote cooperation in interviews and experiments. Because of the depression and post-traumatic stress disorder Motormouth experiences in the aftermath of his rough childhood and even rougher adulthood, he's granted regular mental health counseling sessions with Dr. Aniston, the on-site psychiatrist at Biosite-59. He's also been prescribed a course of psychiatric medication to help treat some of his underlying issues. With so many cursed objects, maniacal monsters, and incomprehensible beings interred within the confines of the SCP Foundation, it's easy to forget the plight of anomalies like Motormouth, people whose extraordinary gifts and burdens make them outcasts in society and often end up in the care of an organization famous for being cold and unfeeling. And in the dark of a Foundation containment cell, a little kindness and compassion can go a long way. Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-2484, Parasitic Mayonnaise Worms.